We are going to talk about bandhas. Bandhas are interesting. They are locks or seals that we create in the body. There are a couple that get talked about in yoga often, and that would be Mula Bandha, Uddiyana Bandha, and Jalandhara Bandha. There is another that incorporates engaging all three at once called Maha Bandha, which is the great seal or lock. And that's very challenging. So I don't recommend trying to engage all three at once if you are not familiar with the locks or they are new to you. Uh, Mula Bandha really there aren't a lot of contraindications. It's pretty safe for most people to use it and is very helpful actually because it engages the pelvic floor, which as we age, especially, or if we've had children, we lose a lot of the muscle in there. So it's a good one, really, to use and engage. Now, the other two, I would recommend you use caution. Don't do them alone. And you may want to mention them to your doctor, especially if you have any underlying medical issues, because with these locks, what we're doing is we're sealing off certain areas of the body temporarily so that we can rebalance energy flow. And when we do that in these particular areas, it can create, lightheaded dizziness. So with the other two, please, if you are not familiar with these, start out slow, literally only holding for seconds. Have somebody with you and use your judgment. If there's an underlying issue or you are prone to dizziness or lightheadedness, you may not want to practice them, but at least you'll have an understanding of them. But Mula Bandha, I recommend for pretty much everybody. Now, Mula Bandha is the one, though, that you can't tell if someone is engaging it because of the area it's in. You'll have different instruction. You'll maybe read or see or hear different instruction on how to come into these locks. I'm going to give you the ones that I personally use. If it doesn't work for you or you like something else, please use it. You'll also hear with Mula Bandha, some people will refer to it as like a Kegel like action. I personally like that description. You are still trying to fine tune it. It's not exactly Kegel, but by mentioning that, most people will understand what you're meaning and the area that they need to be focusing on. So I think it's important because it really hones in close to the area that we're working with. Another way to understand the muscles that we're asking to engage would be to go to the bathroom. As you're peeing, stop your pee. Then you're going to know what area we're targeting. That small area of muscles that we want to be focusing on. And this way you'll have an understanding of that motion and that feeling. So with Mula Bandha, we want to find a nice, comfortable seated posture. You can use Mula Bandha when you're doing a yoga practice. It is challenging, so it can be kind of fun to do because while you're doing your yoga posture, which you're asking your body and mind to be paying attention to certain things, then you're also engaging Mula Bandha, so you're asking for even more focused awareness. So what you'll find is that as you're holding your posture, you lose the lock, and that's okay. Just like when we're learning meditation, right? We're asking the mind to focus, but then we get distracted by a sound, a sight, a smell. We just notice it. We bring our attention back to it, right? So same thing with the lock. If you're using Mula Bandha in your practice, you notice you lose the lock. That's okay. Re-engage it. And little by little, you're going to notice that you're strengthening those areas and you're rebalancing energy, which is what we want. So, thinking of a hose, when we close that hose off as it's running, it builds up pressure, right? And when we release it, that pressure helps to remove any obstacles or any blocks. So that's essentially what we're doing with these locks in our body. We're temporarily closing off or building up that pressure so that when we release it, it floods through and it creates more balance in areas that may have been off balance. So, Mula Bandha, sitting up nice and tall, that spine is lifted. You may want to elevate the hips by being seated on a folded blanket. The spine is long, shoulder blades draw back towards one another. We don't want to shove from the shoulder. We want that motion to come from the blades. Chin is back if you feel it jutting forward. Eyes can be opened or closed. Again, I can't tell if you're engaging it. Only you can be the judge of that. So bring that awareness down to that pelvic region, down to the genitals. And just allow your breath to be natural, normal. We're not changing the breath. We're bringing the awareness to that genital region. Now go ahead and engage those muscles down there as if you were going to stop the process of peeing. Or if you are familiar with Kegels, go ahead and Kegel. Holding it for as long as is comfortable. If you need to release and re-engage, go ahead and do that. Breathing while you're holding. So that's another tricky challenge. When we hold the lock in Mula Bandha, there's a tendency to hold our breath. With the other two locks, we will be stopping the breath, but with Mula Bandha, keep breathing. As you keep working with Mula Bandha, you'll notice you're going to keep fine-tuning the muscles that you're working with so that you're really getting to that strip between the genitals and the anus. That's the muscle that we're really working on engaging that usually we don't. So this is why we start with those Kegel practices first. And little by little, you're going to notice, wow, I'm using more muscles down there that I never did before. And because muscles are attached to surrounding muscle, little by little, you're going to notice you are strengthening your pelvic bowl and even up into abdominals. Okay, if you have that Mula Bandha engaged, go ahead and release it. Janie, can you get out of the vision? And take a nice deep breath in. Exhale, release. So that's a Mula Bandha practice. Pretty simple-ish. You know, for some people I know that can be challenging to really understand the muscles we're working on, but you have that general idea. Keep practicing it. If you want to challenge yourself, practicing it within your yoga practice, feel free. I'm going to stop the video